Welcome to the Child Care Business Coach. My name is Evelyn Knight. Thank you for joining me today. I hope everybody is having a wonderful week. I had a fantastic weekend with the ladies from the Tri-County Healthy Communities Coalition Early Childhood Advisory Council here in Northern Nevada. We had a mini conference that was sponsored by the Nevada AEYC. I got to do a couple presentations and we had a lot of fun. It was great, and I am thankful for the opportunity to get to be an instructor during that mini conference. I'm also really looking forward to the conference in April that we're having. I will be a presenter at the statewide Nevada AEYC conference. So that is kind of fun and exciting coming up for me. So I hope you have some fun things planned and somehow you're also giving back to the ECE community. So today I am going to talk about time management. But before I get into that, I do want to talk a little bit about why I do this podcast, just as a recap, or if you're new to the podcast. What my main goal and focus is to help early childhood education professionals just learn some of the skills that I've learned over time, avoid the mistakes I've made, and just be successful in running a childcare center or owning a childcare center, or even running a classroom sometimes. A lot of the techniques that I'll talk about will apply to like lead teachers. I have held every position in a preschool. I've pretty much done everything. There's nothing I haven't done at this point over the last 20 plus years. I'm not going to date myself, but I've even done nannying. So I'm just hoping that I can help somebody out there, especially if you're new, just learn some new stuff that I wish I had known from the beginning, or even stuff I just wish I knew 5 years ago. One of the things I really like to touch up on, just because it's something that you don't hear talked about nearly enough, is mental health for early childhood professionals. And this is a really, really hard job. And a lot of people do not understand how hard our job and our industry is. So time management is one of the areas that we really struggle, and it can really affect our mental health, the stress level that we feel because of our lack of time, right? If you're an owner or a director, especially directors, you probably feel so overwhelmed and don't know where you're going to get enough time to do everything that you're supposed to do. If you're an owner who is not a director, just kind of be conscious and aware of how big a director's job is. I also want to caution you, though, because when I started on my journey to learn better time management a few years ago, I was convinced I had no time at all. I had sold myself on a narrative that I was too busy to get anything done, and I was always stressed out because I wasn't getting done really what is important for a center to be at its highest quality. I wasn't getting things done like observations, classroom meetings with my staff. I wasn't even getting employee reviews done. And those are the things that are really going to change the quality of your center. There was a lot of different things too when it came to the parents I wasn't getting done. Like now my center has a leadership team that we meet with, which includes parents. So there were things like that I was convinced I could not get done. And so at the time when I first started my journey into time management, I did some research because I was just totally overwhelmed. And at the time I was finishing my master's degree, I was a mom of 2 children who, kids have busy schedules on their own. They were both school age at the time. I'm a wife. My husband worked 60 plus hours a week. A lot of times he worked closer to 70 hours a week. During that same time period, I was also the owner of two centers, one of which I was the director. If you've listened to my past episodes, I have talked about how I was diagnosed with a neurological disease that I have. And this was the period of time where I started trying to get my life back together on track and just trying to really learn how to live with my condition. And I realized that I had horrible time management skills. And I didn't just wake up one morning and say to myself, oh, I've got to work on time management. I actually took a leadership course. And during this course, they did a small segment, about an hour-long segment on time management. And I realized that I have horrible time management. This is also during the time I started working with my business coach. And so I brought it up with her, and she gave me an assignment to help me figure out what I was doing with my time. And that was a total game changer for me. After that, I set out to learn how to have better time management. On a side note, I do have to say that basic time management, like who we are as time managers and what is actually ingrained into our brain, is developed within the first 6 years of life. So be aware of that, because the children in our care, our programs and our curriculum, that is actually helping to establish the groundwork for time management that these children will have for the rest of their lives. So really think about that when you are guiding your program, when you guys are planning curriculums and whatnot. That is one of the 7 executive functioning skills that is really just starting to be built in a child's brain. At this time in my life, I realized that during my preschool years, I was never taught time management. So my innate or natural time management techniques and skills are pretty much non-existent. They're really awful. So I have to be very intentional about my time management in order to make sure that I am staying in control. Now back to what Christine, my coach, had me do. The first thing she had me do is to create a journal of everything that I did with my time. And this seemed like a huge daunting task to me, but it really was worth it. It changed everything for me. What she actually told me to do was to get just a notebook, and at the end of every hour, and I mean every hour, write down exactly what I did during that hour. And she wanted everything, right? So she wanted me to do this for about a week. The first couple days were rough. I did write down, at the end of the hour, but then I kind of realized that we do so much in an hour. It's kind of hard to summarize. So I pretty much, for the last couple of days of this assignment, I kept a notebook with me and just started writing everything down as I did it. So if you've ever used this technique with dieting, it is one of the most proven techniques for diets also, where you have to write down everything you eat, right? And I was noticing I kind of started having the same results, where if you don't want to write something down on that piece of paper, you don't put it in your mouth when it comes to dieting, right? So whenever I was going to make a choice to do something that I didn't want to put down on that piece of paper, I would forego it, like checking my email for the 10th time that day, or playing a game on my phone, or jumping on Facebook. Those are the kind of things towards the end of the week that I was just like, I really don't want to write that down. It's such a waste of time. The other thing, though, that it really revealed to me is how much time I really do waste, how much time I spend checking emails, checking my Facebook, checking Instagram. It may feel like you're only taking 1 to 2 minutes every time to do that and that it's not a waste of time. But in reality, it was taking like 10 to 15 minutes, 10 or 15 times a day. So by the end of the day, I was wasting like 2 hours, some days 3 hours a day on social media. If I had opened up YouTube for some reason, it was over. YouTube took up so much of my time. And now there's TikTok, which was actually developed by psychologists to hook you and keep you on the platform longer. They actually did some psychological reviews on people to see how they could keep you stuck on your phone even longer when they developed TikTok. And TikTok is now the fastest growing social media site on the planet. So it's fascinating that, remember, these people want to keep you on. Instagram is another one who does a lot of this, where their Instagram stories are purposely created to keep you on there. The way their algorithms work, it's really on there just to keep you. So you open it thinking, I just have a minute, right? But next thing you know, 20 minutes has gone by. And these social media platforms actually pay a whole group of people to figure out techniques to help you waste your time. So my first suggestion to you would be to take social media off the home screen of your cell phone. Isn't that awful? I know when I did that, it was almost painful. I felt like I'm going to miss out. I'm going to do, but that's how I started. The second thing I started was I only allow myself now to check social media once a day, which is really rough because I do feel a lot of times like I get left out. And if I'm getting really far behind on a day, I don't let myself go onto social media at all. That has been really rough with this new business that I'm starting, since I do coach people online. But there are some days that I still have to make that decision. I just know I've got too much ahead of me. Like today is actually a perfect example. I'm behind on recording podcast episodes. I'm behind on creating some of my course curriculum. So today's a day that I had to tell myself no playing any kind of internet games and no social media. So that timeline. The other thing taking my timeline revealed to me is how often I allow people to interrupt what I'm doing. So I have to stop doing what I was doing, and then I have to come back to it, start over again, and then continue. What that really helped me to understand and to see is that every time you stop your workflow and you have to come back and start, you're wasting a lot of time getting that momentum back. You have to check and see, where was I? What was I doing? You're recapping, and then you're starting over again. So in the long run, a task that should have taken you 30 minutes is taking you like an hour and a half. I mean, even if you were to take away the time of interruption, I'm just talking about the time it takes you to work on that specific task. The time I was spending having to remind myself where I was, review my notes, get my momentum back going was tripling the amount of time it would have taken me to just get this task done. The other thing I realize is that I'm extremely disorganized. I spent a ton of time trying to find things like, where did I put my glasses? Where's my cell phone now? Where did I put my keys? I'm sure we all do that, right? Well, let me tell you, when you journal your time for a week, you would be amazed how many hours in a week you spent looking for your cell phone. It was kind of embarrassing, if I'm going to be completely transparent with you. It was very embarrassing to see how many hours, and I said it, hours, not minutes, hours, when you total by the end of the week, I was spending finding things. And I realized that the clutter I had in my life was causing me to just be disorganized and to lose things. And again, total transparency, I'm finding that I'm starting to get into that position in my life again right now. After my husband's stroke, I have become, things are just different for me. I normally follow a very strict schedule for myself. I normally do a lot of planning, but now that he needs to have a caregiver with him every day, and now that I'm kind of his full-time nurse to a certain extent, I'm noticing that I'm neglecting my organization. And so things are starting to pile up again. My house is getting cluttered. I am by no means a minimalist, but I have learned the importance of becoming a minimalist. So if I let myself just go with my own natural flow, I do tend to accumulate a lot of stuff, and I do tend to have a lot of clutter around me. But I've just learned through this whole journey I've taken over the years and just studying time management that clutter and stuff takes up so much of your time. Having a minimalist attitude and approach to things frees up so much time because stuff takes your time. And I will tell you, when I first started on this journey, my family took this to the extent that we actually even downsized the size of our house. My husband has always been a minimalist at heart, but when it comes to our home, he really does let me call the shots. So when I realized that our house, the size, all the stuff I had accumulated was just eating away my time. I was spending so much time taking care of all this stuff. We decided to improve our quality of life, we were going to downgrade. And we did. We downgraded to a house that was 1,000 square feet smaller, which is still the house we're in now, 12 years later. And it has been awesome. I have to tell you guys, for those of you who have the big houses like I had, it has been one of the best decisions we've ever made because I can clean the whole thing in a day. So it's not, you don't feel anymore like you're chasing everything. I take the same approach in my office now. I do have a really, really hard time, though, getting rid of my stuff sometimes. And so what I've learned how to do in this situation is I delegate it. One of my assistant directors is great at organizing and just keeping things tidy, and she's more of a minimalist. So I will give her a day to clean out my office and I will not be there. If I don't see it, I don't care. If it's when I see like, oh, I might be able to use that packet. I know that textbook is outdated, but you don't know, there might be something in there that I need. So that's my attitude, right? But her attitude, she comes more from an approach of how long has it been since you've touched that thing? It needs to go. And she'll just get rid of everything. So now I delegate it to her. And now that my stuff is more organized, I'm not spending a ton of time looking for things all the time. I'm not losing things like I used to. Of course, I still do lose things, right? We all do. But before, I was spending a lot of time. So if you're somebody who loves stuff and has a lot of clutter, I'm sure you're in the same position. Get rid of the stuff. It will be so freeing to you. And do that journaling exercise. It's amazing what you will discover about you. Ironically, my coach never even asked to look at it. She really just wanted me to find it for myself, which she didn't explain that to me when I first started this task. She would let me go through this whole week worth of journaling. And then when we met, she just said, okay, so what did you learn? And it was awesome how she went about that because it really helped me out so much. But I realized during that time too, that I wasn't a time manager, right? I didn't know what to do. So I set out, and it's something I still study a lot. I still will read books, take courses, listen to podcast episodes that are on productivity and time management. The other thing I've done is I've studied people who are highly successful. And I look to see how they live and what they do. And one of the things I noticed that people who are very successful, all of them seem to do. And I do mean all of them. I haven't really found one yet who does not do this. But they are really good at planning. They create a plan and they prioritize. So one of the things I do every single day now is I wake up every morning and I do my devotional time, and then I do a plan for the day. I will literally every morning before I do anything else, after I do my morning devotion and affirmations, second thing I do is create a plan and a schedule for the day. And I write it out. I need this on pen and paper. My main calendar is on my phone. I do digital calendars are so amazingly awesome, but I actually take that calendar, transfer it to paper, and I literally schedule out my entire day, including things like I need to clean my kitchen today, or I need to fax, or I need to send an email to licensing, it's stuff like that. So not just work, personal too. My entire day is planned, right? Every morning. Now, before that, though, if you've taken my mission and vision class, I've talked about how I actually plan out 3 years in advance. Then I break that 3 years into a year plan. Then I break that annual plan into a monthly plan. And then that monthly plan is broken into weekly plans. And then that weekly plan is broken into daily plans. So at the beginning of every month, I do sit out and make myself a plan. And then I assign based on that plan what week I'm going to accomplish what. That way I do have a roadmap to get me to achieve my goals and my vision, right? And to make sure I'm staying on track with the goal and vision. So beginning of every month or the end of the last month, usually I'll do it on the last day of the month, I plan my whole month out. And then every week I have my weekly to-dos. I just schedule that in daily. So breaking it down, sometimes things seem so big. And one of the biggest lessons I've learned is when you take something that looks just really big and overwhelming and break them down into small, achievable steps, it suddenly makes this big, overwhelming task not so hard. That's something we worked with, like getting our QRIS 5-star certification. That's what we're looking at. That's what we do for NAEYC accreditation. Take this big overall goal, break it down. That's it. So it's something I do every day, and that helps me so much with time management. The other thing I do is I've learned I have to defend my time. If you've watched my Facebook Live, I go into this a lot, and this is actually something that I'm really going to focus on my training. So I'm not going to go into it too deep here, but just learning how to defend your time. And I can tell you guys, this is probably the game changer for you as directors. You have to learn how to defend your time. You have to set up a time of day every single day that you can tell your staff you cannot be disturbed every day from noon to 2 o'clock. Or from 12 to 12:30. People treat your time the way you train them to treat your time. Just remember that. They are following your lead. If you do not respect your time, they will not respect your time. One of the examples I love to use is if you were to schedule an appointment with a girlfriend, right? And you guys are going to meet for lunch next week. You're going to show up for that lunch. If you make a doctor's appointment, you're going to show up for that doctor's appointment. And if you can't for some reason, you're going to call and let them know in advance, right? You're not going to just drop those plans because someone rushes into your office and asks you for help with something, right? You're not going to just say, oh, I guess I can't meet with my girlfriend for lunch today because, teacher over here needs me to go do something for them. You're not going to do it. You need to treat yourself and your time with that same respect and courtesy. Prioritize yourself and your time with the same courtesy that you would a doctor's appointment, and you will be amazed at how you get control of your time. And people don't mind. I know you might feel uncomfortable thinking, oh, my staff is going to feel like I'm neglecting them or something, but they don't. Just explain it to them. Be honest. Again, I'm going to go back to you guys all the time with transparency. Tell them the truth. I am having a really hard time getting my own work done. So I need to start becoming a little bit more defending of my own time. Maybe announce it in a staff meeting. Tell them from this time to this time, I am going to reserve to get my work done. And I actually call it my fire time. In the training class I have, I also put a visual together that I've created that my staff knows. I have it hanging in my office where my fire time is delegated in a red area. And I basically have green, yellow, and red time. Green times are times that anybody can come and interrupt me. I am 100% available. Parents, staff, whatever. I do designate those times for the busy period, like pick up and drop off, right? Because you're going to be interrupted. Yellow times are times that I probably can be disturbed, but I'm going to be working on things. So that's when they know if it's important, you can come and talk to me about something. But if it's not, let's save it for my green time. And then red time is you do not disturb me unless the building is burning down. unless there is a real emergency, a child, and I mean an emergency that only I can deal with, or, something like that. So I do reserve like anywhere from 1 to 3 hours every day of my fire time. And my children have even been trained. My personal children have even been trained to know. And my husband, they all know this is the time when I go and I shut my office door. That means do not disturb. I'm busy. So I just suggest you do the same thing. It really is just a matter of setting the precedence and letting people know that this is a priority to you. And I really suggest doing this every single week, so that you can really just gain that control of your time. You guys will be absolutely amazed. By the end of your first week of doing this, you're not going to believe the amount of work you got done, even if you just start with 1 hour every single day of just you by yourself getting stuff done. You'll be amazed. Sometimes on my orange time, I will actually plan things like classroom observations, and I actually don't do this so much anymore. Now I've delegated this to my directors, but it's same thing goes for them. You schedule that time to do classroom observations, to do classroom meetings, and every week it actually gets done. I've trained my directors that by the end of the month, if they follow this time management technique, they will actually get an observation of every classroom and conferences with every classroom done by the end of the month. So it's amazing how much you can gain control of your center, up your quality, and get organized just by doing that protecting your time technique I use. So the other couple things I would say is stop multitasking. Multitasking ends up making us take so much more time getting things done. Just start one project, get it done. The other one is delegating. And last episode, I talked a lot about delegating. So I'm not going to really go into detail on that. But if you want more information, I do have an entire training on this in my training website. You can find the training website if you go to the childcarebusinessprofessionals.com. Everything will be linked there where you can actually find your way to my training classes. You can also find me on Facebook, the Child Care Business Coach, and Evelyn Knight, and get more information about my training classes. But I do go into detail in my training. I also will have my calendar that you can edit and make your own on this training. And there's also a workbook that will help you get through to find where your time management pitfalls are. And I really just summarized the 10 years worth of time management classes and techniques that I've developed for myself and put together. And again, I cannot stress to you guys that one last thing, I am not a good time manager. I've just taught myself techniques that help me to manage my time and that make me a good time manager. But if I let those things fall to the wayside, it just kind of all falls apart. I have to be very intentional. So good time management takes intentionality. The other thing I'll add is like right now that my life is in a transition after my husband's stroke, I'm kind of having to relearn things and reset things because I am such a planner and I get into a routine. I'm having to totally reinvent my routine and figuring like, how is my schedule going to work now between helping him, managing a business, doing this podcast, coaching clients, doing the classes I'm doing. But I know it's doable. It's just a matter of taking that time to relearn. Planning every day is essential for me right now more than ever. And just learning how to get it all done again. So it's something that you have to work on for the rest of your life. It really is. But once you know how, it's so much easier. And once you understand that you have that control, it is very empowering. So I hope this was helpful for you. Again, subscribe to my podcast, whether you're on iTunes or Stitcher, and give me a review. I really, really appreciate the reviews. Also, if you want to join us on Facebook, I do a Facebook Live every Friday. And I do have some other opportunities coming up that I will be announcing on Facebook Live, and I'll probably announce on a future episode of this podcast. So I hope everybody has a great week, and I will talk at you again next week. Thank you for joining me.